Glennis is also present, and Pansy Ackerman, and Ryan from XF is here as well. All right, public comment on general items in the board's jurisdiction. We have 30 minutes for that. We have a sign-in sheet back there. Back there. Does anyone sign the sign-in sheet? Okay, I'm just going to read this.
If we want to speak at any time during the meeting, are you reading that first?
Yes.
Good.
Hi Stephanie, it's Glennis. We've begun the meeting. If you want to call me, I'll put you on the speaker.
Okay, so public comments pertaining to agenda items can and will be taken prior to discussion and or vote on the respective item. The public may comment on any item that is on the agenda or on any other item that is in the board's jurisdiction. Hi. As soon as you
All right, these are for anyone who wants them. I'll just put them over here.
Reading over to you. No presentation shall be more than 3 minutes, and the total time for this purpose shall not exceed 30 minutes per meeting. Individuals may speak one time per subject. Individuals desiring to address the board at any time throughout the meeting are required to sign in prior to the start of the meeting. Board members are prohibited from responding to or commenting on matters raised by the public that are not on the agenda. And you can see the code for that if you need it. So, now since Frank is here, I'm going to turn the time over to him at 6:33 p.m.
Right, thank you. I apologize for the delay, but that was traffic related and to the mayhem at my day job. Going on. In essence, in preparation for the meeting, I also wanted to remind everybody, in a positive way, to adhere to the code of conduct as we lay it out in the ideas of IB, and to be mindful in the choice of words, in gesture. We are all volunteers on this board, and I want everybody to feel happy and to be in a safe environment to say what we want to say, what's on our mind, and to be mindful of the non-spoken words everybody has there, and so, which is around the ways of communicating. So civility is just my pledge for today. And I hope you can all follow me in civility. Not that we had an issue with that, but we all want to be mindful of civility in code of conduct. Okay? With that, call to order. Did you do the call to order?
We called to order.
Call to order. I'd like to move the agenda along to approval of agenda as presented. I would need a motion.
Sorry, not to belabor the point, but it does say on the agenda that it can be any item on the agenda or any other item that's in the board's jurisdiction. So maybe we want to clarify that language for public comment.
Thank you for your comment.
Can I ask a qualifying question?
Absolutely.
If a topic like this relates to potentially, development of children because they're hearing it, does that mean it's tied to the agenda? Because that's what we have to talk about. Yeah. So I think this particular case is actually compliant, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, very good close, yeah.
Okay. Good. Thank you for your comments. Agenda. Accepting the agenda as presented. Motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Are we all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Consent items. Approval of minute meetings of March 14th, 2016. Do we have discussion on that item? By the way, so I think we ran it too rigid as a comment on that notion. So we always had the idea of, we have a motion in a second and then we're going to discuss it. I think we can do discussion and then we do motion in a second. If it's on the agenda, we should not be as rigid. Otherwise, I feel we're having the conversation we need to have on the board level. So on that notion, is there any comments to the agenda, consent agenda? So consent agenda, do we have a motion to move forward? Do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
I'll move.
You move, do I get a second?
I can second.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
You abstain.
Me, I abstain
Two
as well.
abstentions. Okay, thank you. Which brings us to item number 5, which is the informational item. We have Buenos has the floor.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. This evening, as part of my executive director report, I'll begin with a local control accountability plan, or more commonly spoken of as the LCAP. It's that time of year when we look at the goals that we set last year's LCAP and we revise and set the goals for the coming year. It is a 3-year plan, a rolling plan that continues with the goals that we have set. So when we look at the LCAP, it defines our school's goals, as I said, specific actions and expenditures that support the pupil outcomes and performance. Our goals written in the LCAP must actually address the 3 state priorities. The 3 state priorities are conditions of learning, pupil outcomes, and engagement. So when we look at conditions of learning, that includes having or hiring fully credentialed teaching staff, and we go one step above that and also hire what we call highly qualified instructional assistants as well. Standards aligned instructional materials falls in that category, as well as the implementation of the state standards. The pupil outcomes includes how our students perform on state tests, how many of our English learners are reclassified, and also includes professional development and interventions to support our students. Parent engagement falls under the category of engagement, and that includes parental involvement, pupil engagement, and school climate, or the sense of safety, and how our students feel connected to school. As I said, the LCAP is a rolling 3-year plan that requires annual updates. The 2016-17 through the 2018-19 plans will be presented in detail at the June 13th board meeting and do require board approval. Proposition 39, we're called Prop 39, and we received the final offer of space to continue to remain on Marina Del Rey Middle School campus on April the 1st. There are 2 different kinds of space awarded. One is called the exclusive space, the second is called the shared space. As exclusive space, we requested 18 classrooms based on the number of intent to enroll, district intent to enroll forms that we received. LAUSD has awarded us 19 classrooms, so that's one more than we asked for, but they specified, it is of course our choice, but that we use it for special education services and for for our RSP teacher to have an office. She currently has an office in the copy room down by the bathroom here at the end of the corridor, which some of you have seen her little office, and it really does impede on the middle school uses that room for their copies and for their storage. So it's been very nice of her to give us the space, but it would be even better to have a classroom of our own, because what's happening is our special education population is growing. And when we first started a couple of years ago, we were at 3%. This year, at the beginning of this year, we were at 8% special education students. We are now at 9%, and I can see us going to 10% by the start of next year. So they really do need the room. And our service providers come in and they have a difficult time actually providing speech therapy and so forth to the kids without having this classroom. So we will be using the 19th classroom as a resource room. And also, it can be divided and used for our language acquisition, our German language acquisitions option program as a holding room for those groups that will be rotating in and out of the classroom. That gives another space for them to be getting the German instruction. Our shared space options this year, and we've increased shared space from last year at 29% shared space. This year we're at 45% shared space. We have 19 teaching stations, I forgot to mention, and 2 administrative offices due to our size increase. That includes this room, is considered an administrative office, as well as the main office room 45 next door. The middle school's rooms are at 23, so you can see with 45% occupancy, we're almost at equal, equal grounds with the middle school. Shared use space, though, has the options of the NPR, which we currently use, the library, the gym, the dance studio, the science labs. We have always bargained not to use those rooms except the NPRs to get this additional room, which we did this year. But for next year, with the facilities cost per square foot increase that we've seen, it was $6.96 per square foot. This year it's now $7.22 per square foot, and our share has doubled from last year, practically doubled. We paid $122,864 this year. We're at $255,472 for next year, so that's almost doubled. So we will be using our shared space. I will be negotiating for more time in the NPR, and particularly the use of the gym for our students so that they're not always having PE out in the field and the blacktop. They'll have more resources, we'll have a basketball court. And so we'll get our money's worth out of that. So I'm super excited about, the extra classrooms, more room for administrative offices for the board meeting. And that has taken a bite, though, out of our budget, unfortunately.
It's a great deal.
Yeah, that's still, right, it's still a great deal.
That's still in town.
That's
Yeah.
right. So the configuration now shows 4 TKK classrooms. We originally thought we would have 3 and bring in 3 fourth grade, but in looking at our lottery applications for 4th grade, there weren't enough really. It would have been very low class sizes, and I think it's, when we look at the even classrooms and how much better that works too in the partnerships, it was more, it was just smarter to bring in the 4 kindergarten TKK. We will be putting the TK again with the kindergarten students as we've done. For grades 3 through 5, it shows all students. It looks a little different because of the German language acquisition options program. It looks a little different because all students will be immersion language acquisition students will be in one classroom. And that being one of the conditions of approving our material revision, as you know, to add the options program was not to separate the options students from the immersion students, not to have a separate classroom.
Okay, can I break protocol here at that stage, just in order to break down the bits and pieces a little bit, because we haven't been together for 2 months. So I think it would be prudent, with your permission, to break it here and to open the floor for questions at that point.
I think that we should have this, it's difficult if one has a lot of agenda items to write notes and save your questions for the very end, because things will fall slip through the cracks. So I think we should make this not just an exception, but rather
I would agree with you. So with that, I'd like to break it at this point and want to open the floor for questions at that point. Why don't we start on the right?
So, I wanted to clarify, so that $7 and change figure per square foot, that's annual. That's our annual cost, right?
Yes.
It's not monthly, so
Yes.
if you break it
That's
down, it's
annual,
just a
it's
little bit
20.
over 50 cents a square foot on a monthly basis, 55 cents-ish.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
relative to what market would be for facilities, you should just keep that in mind. We're paying 55 cents a square foot per month.
Good deal.
True, but we are paying for 45% of what it would cost to rent this entire place. So we need to utilize our resources, computer lab, all of that. That in the past, we've had to use to negotiate for other space. Now we're in a really good footing, I think. So, yeah, it's good.
Do we have anything else?
I'm fine.
Do we think we're hitting some type of a glass ceiling with a 45%? Obviously, we're encroaching significantly also with the middle school and all that in mind.
Our charter allows us to go to 460. It's based on enrollment, obviously, to 467 students. It should get back down to 455 next year, so it should stabilize. I don't foresee a growth for next year. Of course, with every Prop 39 final offer, they always say it's our last year to be on this campus. That was noted in the letter. It is our last year to remain here because they anticipate growth. but that's a statement that's in every year. But I think it should be status quo. The following year, not next school year, but the following.
Okay, different question to a different slide, the next one.
Mhm.
So in the past, we tended to have challenges when we encountered odd number of classes in a certain grade. Now we're seeing that in second grade and fifth grade, which obviously has an immersion and acquisition option on track. Do you mind shedding some light on like how we'll manage that?
We're looking, I've already spoken to the second grade teachers, we're looking at the model that we currently use in first grade, where we would have math taught by one teacher, German by the second teacher, and the ELA, the English portion, by the third teacher. It seems to be, they seem very comfortable with that, and not concerned about the change in the way they're teaching, because they do collaborate very closely this year, that second grade team in particular, so I'm very excited about it, actually. It's something that's really, if we could, it's really not avoidable. That's why I didn't want to do that in kindergarten. That's why I was really set to bringing in the four classes rather than the odd amount. And the fifth grade, that's going to be a whole different way of operation. 3, 4, 5. It's going to be so fluid, and the scheduling is currently in flux. It's not going to look like traditional classrooms and partnerships like you see now because of the acquisition program. Sometimes those kids will be with immersion kids, sometimes they'll be pulled out, much like the German language groups we have now. And so I don't see any impact at all in the fifth grade, because it's going to be a whole different. And hopefully when we get the schedule worked out, I'll be able to share that with the board in the June meeting as part of my presentation. We'll have a clearer picture of how the rotation works.
Still work in progress, the schedule.
I'm sorry?
Still work in progress,
Yes.
the schedule.
Yes, it's still in flux. And it is a flux schedule. There's a lot of movement.
Eric?
I asked my question.
Just a comment for the future, not for today. Please don't even take your time to answer it today. It would be great if we could get some historical data for the number of students that flow from one year to the next. It would be good to know in terms of building a revenue model for the future, and then assessing how we are building a funnel of students that might go on to
Middle school. Right.
well, no, just even again, in terms of fourth grade, when do we realize that we need to have 3 fourth grade classes versus understanding the model?
Right.
So if there's just any historical data that we can capture, would be appreciated.
And we did present that this year when CalPADS was set, with Count Day in October. We presented how many students stayed, how many left, how many are, and we can certainly build on that,
Thank you.
in the fall.
And the visual communication is
Yeah.
fantastic, honestly.
Yeah, thank you.
Pete?
Yeah, that was one question I had as well in terms of the numbers of students, but I guess a further breakdown of who's going to go into what, follow what path. Okay, I mean, that's going to be more as important now. I guess the other question, which is somewhat, but it's coming tangential to right here, but kind of comes to mind is, given the difference in the expectations of what teachers are actually teaching between immersion and language acquisition, because I assume immersion has content, but language acquisition doesn't.
It will be very similar content in German instruction, but at a lower level.
Okay.
Yes.
And-
Yes, like a foreign language class.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Well, right. But foreign language emphasis is on language, which isn't
Right.
standards-based for content. I mean, it's aligned. It should
Correct.
be aligned, but it's
Correct.
not. So anyway, the question is whether or not that has an impact on the types of teachers you're hiring or you have on staff. Is an impact, concerns?
No, they'll be the same immersion teachers, that German immersion teachers. We will be adding an additional staff member, a rotating German teacher that will be working in the acquisitions part of the day with the, with the students that require the additional support.
And I don't know if it's enough, but
Mhm.
does it potentially free up some options in terms of potentially hiring someone whose focus is on language acquisition, who's
That's a
may
good
not come
point.
from Germany?
That's a good point to keep in mind.
I don't know.
That's a very good point, actually, and this year is really the pilot year of
Right,
it, you know,
right.
so that would be good that would be excellent data to be collecting,
You know, because I know how it's an effort to,
right? To bring in
right, so.
teachers from Germany. It's a very good point. But this year will be, as I said, you know, a lot of, it's the first year of a new program, so we'll be gathering the data.
Sure.
Yeah.
Some bumps in the road in the first
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
If I can ask a question about one of the previous things, about the LCAP.
The LCAP, huh?
So you'd mentioned safety, which has to do with student
Mhm,
safety.
mhm, mhm.
Do you administer any kind of a survey to the students in terms of their perceptions of safety and engagement and school bonding?
Yes, we do that.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
So
At the
we'll
very
get that.
beginning of the year, it'd be good to follow up. A lot of it has to do with the Caring School Community Program
Mhm.
and how they feel that's helped them feel safer at school, feel more connected. So it was really based on that program and getting more information, effectiveness of the program, and then how they build
Which
their
happens
perception.
at the beginning of the year.
Yes, but it'd be good to do a follow-up at the
Is
end,
there-
and I think
is there
Mr.
any-
Levy is planning to do
Any
that.
legs on that?
Because that's his area.
Right.
I
That'd be
will-
interesting to
I will
find
make
out.
note, make sure we do.
Could that be some?
Some pre and post.
All right,
Thank you.
Thanks.
I just have a quick question about the acquisition track, and how are you going to assess who's going to be going into the acquisition track? And I know it might be a little challenging to plan the staffing based on how many kids are going to go in that track, so what are your thoughts on
A
that?
letter will be going home in the next day or two to all parents about the testing. Our language coordinator and our German teachers have put together testing for placement to see whether they go in the track or the immersion. So it'll be based on teacher recommendation, the test, as well as parent feedback, because if parents will be notified, as to which direction the child is going, and we really want to make sure that we have their buy-in as well. So it's really three components: the test, the student teacher recommendation, and the parent.
So then you'll make an assumption on staffing, and that will be incorporated into the budget?
No, it's already, the same amount of students. We've already looked at staffing and how this program impacts it. And as I said, there'll just be one additional German teacher, rotating German teacher to pick up.
And that's in the
To
budget?
pick up, yes it is.
Oh.
Yes it is.
Great.
On the classroom configuration?
Yes.
Is that by design or by interest? Meaning, or, let me put it, I guess, in simple terms, do you have waiting lists in any one of these grade levels?
Yes, and that's, I think a couple slides from now, you'll see
Next slide.
I think it's the next slide, you'll see what's waiting, how
So
many
this is
students we have.
by design?
Yes, the 4 classrooms, we had enough interest to open for kindergarten.
And not enough in first grade, obviously,
No.
or fourth?
Well, we did. We could have maybe squeezed another first grade, but then you would have been compromising the kindergarten because we only have 18 classrooms. Then you'd have a 3 configuration too.
Do you have a separate TK classroom
No,
versus
they're
their?
integrated. So the units of inquiry are alternated. So the kindergarten unit of inquiry changes every other year. So there's 2 units of inquiry, so it's not repeated instruction in terms of the UOI.
I'm holding my questions and refraining with respect to the agenda. Please carry on with your report. I'm planning to break after the last, bring forward the last round of questions after the last
Our lottery was held on April the 5th, and at the time of the lottery, we received 267 applications. 202 of these applications were for TKK. The lottery draw numbers were determined by the April projections of returning student numbers per grade level. So we send home before the lottery an intent to return form so that we have a clearer idea of the enrollment, the students that are returning. At the beginning, we were aiming for 3 TKK classes and 3 4th grade classes, and therefore we showed 75 students in each of those 2 grades. We drew a total of 116 students at the lottery, which left us with 151 students on the wait list. After the application deadline on March 25th, we received 15 post-lottery applications, and we still continue to receive them, at least one a day. We processed the first round of enrollment, that's all the students that were drawn at the lottery, of course, and have 52 newly enrolled students as of May 5th. That's where we are at that point in time. With a confirmed 349 returning students added, we are currently at a total enrollment of 401, with a target to be 450. So at the beginning of last week, we contacted 60 more students from the wait list, and these applications are still pending. They do have a deadline. The first step is to return an intent to, it's a confirmation that they've received and they've accepted the enrollment. So they're still pending. Probably not all of those students will actually be enrolled. We know that historically happens for us. But as of today, our projected enrollment is 457 students, which you can see in the last column. So maybe I should stop there.
Yeah, I think that's an important slide. I'm not going to go systematically by the question who's willing to, who has questions at that point.
I want to be able to interpret. So basically, the way to the second column and the third column, 2015, 16, and April projections. So one has to look at it as an arrow going from one to the next, right? So
Right.
78 in first grade,
That's what we
75
currently.
have requested to come to second grade, right? Of the
Correct.
78 that is in first grade, right?
No, yes, correct, correct, yes, the
Yes?
78 to 75, yes,
Okay.
that's
From
correct.
the second grade, there's 95,
Mhm,
but we have 100 coming back.
mhm.
How does that work? From 95 to 100.
Hmm. Coming into third, I
And
can't
then
remember.
from third
that.
grade, there's 46 currently,
Mhm.
but then it goes to 75.
No, that is bad because of fourth.
Oh,
grade.
because we were going to bring in 75. Okay, those are our projections.
Oh, those are not the people
No,
that
no,
have
no,
said
no.
they're coming.
No, those are
Based on the
projections,
old
we were gonna
model.
put 3, yeah, we were aiming for,
Well, that's why I qualified.
No, no, that was-
And it was validated that those are the numbers coming, so that's why I.
no, we were projecting we could,
So then how do we know
possibly.
how many of the 78 are coming back? Where is that
Which-
reflected as to?
75.
column.
I think the second column matters.
Yeah, it doesn't, it's what we were assuming, those are our April projections.
Confirmed returning students.
Yeah, that's the one.
So-
Okay.
So then,
Yeah, it's like,
Mhm. So what we were doing with the April projections, we were hitting 450.
good.
Do you see
No,
what I'm
those
saying?
percentages are
So we
very
were
high.
making it kind of like 75, 50, 75, 100, hitting what we thought we could possibly do as a projection to hit 450 students.
No problem.
But
So the confirmed returning students, that's the column, it's now been clarified.
yes, those are,
Based on that,
yes,
the returning rate is immensely high.
yeah,
yes, yes, it's good.
77 of
Yeah.
78,
Yeah.
91 of 96,
46 or 40.
Yeah.
46 of 46,
78, 76 of 78, I believe that's.
right?
Right,
So a couple
correct.
of years ago, I remember that there was a dropout.
There was, a few years ago.
And do we, even though this data, so 2 years ago, people based on this statistics didn't say they were going to be dropping out, but we got a dropout.
Right.
Mhm.
What is the sense?
Mhm.
What's the buzz in the school this year about the?
I'm still very cautious and I don't, even because they say they're coming back, I always say maybe 10% of those won't. And so I'm always, always over enroll because we're either gonna have no shows or we're gonna have some of the ones that said they were returning not show up. So I really compensate for that. But it is always very obvious, it's very positive when we see those kind of numbers.
But even 10% would be a positive statement,
It's like what?
right?
Yes.
In terms of German as an immersion program, not necessarily being the challenge that we are making it to be for the students.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they would, you would have half of them drop
Yeah,
out
right.
based on whatever share we have of
Right.
native speakers, right?
And then so really what I would really like to know is what percentage of the minor, what's the right word?
Mhm.
The students that are
Socioeconomically disadvantaged?
yes, well,
Or-
achievement gap.
or- yeah.
How, is there any trend to people that are not returning because of, I'm not asking you to answer this, just a question to myself is, of the people that are not coming back, what percentage are within the achievement gap category?
It's not real clear right now, but it is something I definitely will look at when our enrollment stabilizes and report that out as I did this year. You know, it's not, it's not significant, because I see a few families not returning. One in particular we looked at today was they're moving. You know, there wasn't anything really clearly telling me that it's because of the achievement gap.
There's no loss.
Right.
I wonder if there's a possibility to reach out to those families and let them know about the acquisition track in case that
We
might
are.
entice them.
We are.
Yeah,
They're
good.
getting personal phone calls.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, the upper grade ones.
Mhm.
The lower grades, not as much because it's not impacting them, but in third, fourth, and fifth,
Mhm.
it is.
Just a quick question, and I can't really see the chart, but is the lottery done by grade, or is the lottery just done and then you fill in the grades?
It's by grade.
Yes, right. So you have a
draw by grade.
draw by grade?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Please carry on.
Next, we'll look at our organizational chart. And under the executive director, we are replacing the current director of curriculum instruction with the principal. The principal will be the instructional leader, obviously, of the school, and directly supervise one full-time language coordinator, one instructional coach. This is a new position. And I'll go into a little detail about the instructional coach in a little bit. All teaching staff and our highly qualified instructional assistants. As I said, the instructional coach position is a new position this year. The duties will include response to intervention support for our students in closing the achievement gap, as well as a focus on supporting our gifted students. So it will be our struggling students and our gifted students with a focus on math. That will be the core area of focus next school year. The teaching staff will gain two new kindergarten positions, and we will also be adding one new German language options teacher. We'll keep full-time positions this year in art, PE, Spanish/EL. Of our current staff members, teachers, one German teacher is not returning next school year, and two English teachers are not returning next school year. We're in the process of interviewing teaching staff, as well as the applications for principal as well, with the goal of finalizing the existing teacher contracts next week and the new contracts by mid-June. We have budgeted for 4 full-time instructional assistants and 14 part-time instructional assistants. The Director of Student Services position will remain. As I said earlier, the recent increase in our special education population will create additional responsibilities for that position in terms of service and also caseload. The RSP will continue to provide service to our special needs students as well as manage the IEP caseload. The PRL position is our support for recess, lunch, and playground. We have, I should say PRL, I'm sorry, there's one person that will be in that position next year. The Director of Operations will continue to supervise the office and account administrators, the office administrator as well as the account administrator in the same capacity as this year. The consultants will include support for IB, CalPADS Power School, IT support, and communications. We will immediately contract with San Luis Design to continue the website development and finalize the design and populate the redesigned website with the new content. Ongoing maintenance of the website will continue next school year to include updates to content. This company, we had an interview with Mr. San Luis briefly, just a short time ago. We were very impressed also with his not only what he brought to the table in terms of the website, but also in brand identification and looking at our branding. We need to have a brand audit in order to prepare our logo files so that we are using consistent formats, consistent logos, and developing our color palette and our branding guide. So he will be also assisting in that regard. Once completed, the brand guide and the logo assets will be useful for years to come, because right now we really don't have that consistency, and it will really create a stronger and more consistent means of communication for the school. And that is it for something. Any questions?
Gwen, I have a question just on the website. So is there a timeline associated with that, particularly given the fact that incoming families probably would want to know about the material revision on language acquisition, and also families considering upper grades would do that. So
He's ready to begin immediately.
okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask one question? So how
Yes.
many consultants are there actually?
4.
4, which is tech,
Tech, IT
HR.
support, not HR. IB, we're
IB.
using an IB consultant rather than a coordinator. IB, CalPAT/Power School,
right, which is the data guy.
the data guy, IT support, and communications, which is the brand and the website.
Quick question.
Yes, first over there.
Thank you. Melissa, how competitive are we in terms of salaries, teacher salaries versus LA Unified or any other charter school?
As you recall, last year, the teachers received a raise. It was spread out over, actually 3 started the school year before, the end of the school year before, 2 raises this year to put us competitively, to put us right in line with LAUSD. And we used the salaries out of Culver City as well as out of El Segundo, so we're right in line
And in terms
with
of
their salary scale.
benefits, because every school, charter school, is losing great teachers to district schools, right? Because they have great benefits, et cetera. How about that side of things?
I think our benefits package is very good, right in line.
Alex?
I'm delighted that we're doing further capacity building. Should I deduce from that org structure that the implied, because there is no formal role for marketing, development, etc., as a specific function, that it's falling on the executive director? Is that what I should assume from the org chart? Because that's the only competency which we are yet not staffing the organization for.
Yeah, I would second that. I think like a fundraiser, grant writer type position would be so valuable, even a part-time or a consultant, so that we could bring in more revenue from grants.
So you may want to comment on the principal position and what does it accomplish now? I mean, because it's kind of like, I've heard this spiel, so I'm a little bit of an advantage here. So you may want to, it's on the intersection between principal and executive director.
Right.
So you may want to elaborate a little bit on
Right.
that and how it relates to director of student services.
Right, the principal position, okay, how it differs currently is that this position will be a California credentialed administrator, and also be working on some of the aspects that I currently do in terms of compliance, because they will have familiarity with California education code, and be able to take on a lot of the responsibilities that I'm doing in terms of the oversight and compliance, and to make sure that, as well as obviously curriculum and instruction, that will continue with the Common Core and with supervising teachers. But this role will be a little bit, it will be different from the director of curriculum instruction, in that it will be handling all the compliance issues. Special education, the director of student services will take on more of a role in special education, because we will be outsourcing through the consultant the Power School, the attendance, and the LCAP reporting for the consultant. Because currently he is spending a lot of time doing attendance as well as special education. Special education has really grown in the school. And it is a very, it's an area that requires a lot of focus on, again, federal law, compliance issues, and his time will be better spent in that area than in doing the attendance. So it's a little shift in his role, as I said, for focusing on the special education piece.
Would we be better served having a registrar again, as we have in the past, versus
Well,
these consultants?
In
that
looking
we-
at balancing our budget, we want to make sure that we have a balanced budget, and putting a full-time position in is a fixed cost, where as a consultant is not considered one. And so actually, the cost of a consultant is half of what
A registrar
a
cost.
position.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a better deal.
Okay.
It's a better deal.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure everybody has noticed, right, that the IB is a consultant, which gives you an indication that the other pieces of it's a rebalancing at this stage, what is taking place, I would say, in my own little words, and I should be refraining from it, but it's a rebalancing of the educational environment a little bit, because the IB is pretty much built out through entire years. And here there's an instructional coach coming in on the math side, and there is a rebalancing towards California State standards a little bit. So, accomplished mission accomplished in some segments, rebalancing of the other side, seeing in the principal role, and the director of student service, I believe, is a need, is a necessity in order to accomplish.
To keep the IB though, we
The
can't
IB
lose that.
No,
what
we're
we've
not,
done.
that's not
Yeah.
the.
There'll still be professional development for our teachers as they go through their different years of training, as well as for our new staff. They will still go through all the IB training. But looking at some schools, they do use the services of an IB consultant, just to make sure that we're on track. And I think that we have put so much emphasis and time, and I think we are in a very good place with IB at this point. And I want to see more focus on, as Frank said, the implementation of the Common Core standards and making sure that we're hitting our targets and closing the achievement gap.
How much does the salaries go up by, combined with this new structure?
You mean what is the increase in salaries?
Yes,
Uh,
compensation.
yes.
Is that
As the
total?
block, as percentage of total, right?
2.8%.
2 point,
Yes,
it goes up by
Yes.
2.8%, right?
yes.
And.
Because
so-
it's a step,
Yes.
it's a step and column.
So,
Depending on the year's experience, the step, and depending on the column they're in, which is their education.
okay.
So you have a bachelor's column, you have a master's, you have a master's plus 30. So it's a step and
What do
column
you
for
mean
the
is the
teacher.
ratio? 61st.
Well, from when I look at certified salaries and classified salaries, that's almost 1.5 million, right? So I am advocating for another 50,000 for a full-time development person. Business development, marketing, that can benefit from the consultant. It's a competency we can't keep deferring.
We will take note, and we will delegate it to the financial committee and to the executive leadership to take a look at this. All right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the staffing does reflect, I think, strategic priority one, placing emphasis on that, academic excellence. Particularly, we, looked at two roles that were in our mind mission critical, the language coordinator, as we move to the immersion / acquisition model, and also the instructional coach. Very critical focus on the achievement gap, and also to help our students. We have a number of students that are high achievers as well, so it's both sides of the equation. And, also trying to, it's a balancing act, trying to manage what items are mission critical, what items we can have as a variable cost, to take advantage of our very large reserves, versus fixed costs, which present sustainability issues going forward. I think as we develop, we can look at other positions related to that. Had we not have a very large reserve currently in place that we really need to utilize and take advantage of. So that was a lot of the thinking around some of the staff.
It's obviously very consistent and it is aligned. I don't doubt that for a second. So two rights don't make a wrong. So the plan, I think, is fantastic for all the power to you for building capacity for the operations of the school, but for pivoting towards alternative possibilities for the future. I don't think this is something that this year we can defend.
So it's duly noted. Alex, yeah?
Do you want maybe a final question? I don't know, maybe these more questions, but I'm still, maybe I missed it, but was it answer to this question around where the marketing and development actually resides now?
It resides in the shift of freeing up the executive director for work which has been taken care of. We're shifting it to the principal role, thereby creating bandwidth in the executive
So
director.
the answer is it resides in the executive director?
Yeah, that is correct.
To clarify.
Yeah. I'd like to move that agenda along, unless you have a question.
No, it's just more of observation that I see the executive director continuing to do a brilliant job. Nevertheless, has to transition some new people to the organization that are going to require coaching, hand-holding, integrating them into the organization. You know, the departure of an important contributor this year will create a void that has to be filled. And then thinking of the amount of time that our executive director will want to spend, and rightly should spend, on any growth aspirations of the school, will find the executive director stretched in scaling the school, whether it's for K through 5 or beyond.
Yeah. Okay, I duly noted that comment as well. With that, I would like to ask you to move along on the presentation.
So, Behi Shelser, our Director of Operations, and I met with Duran Curris and Stephanie Yeager, as well as Ryan Griffin from XED on numerous occasions to prepare the preliminary budget that was submitted to LAUSD last Friday, May the 6th. And this budget will be presented to the board in a different format than you currently have in your Dropbox. You'll be receiving the budget in the format that XED and I worked on shortly, so you'll have a month to review it, and as it does not come for approval until June the 13th, so you'll have time, a lot of time to do that. The budget is based, as we said earlier, on enrollment of 450 students with an average daily attendance rate of 95%. It includes 3 certificated administrators, 2 coordinators, a teaching staff of 22, 4 full-time instructional assistants, 14 part-time instructional assistants, 1 PRL, also included 1 classified administrator, 2 classified office staff. The budget is balanced with a $9,655 surplus. The 2 main reasons for the projected low surplus, you know, I think 9,000 is a low surplus, but recall we did have our Prop 39 rent, it's doubled this year, and also we have a very complex and demanding educational program and the staff to support that. The language acquisition and immersion program require a full-time language coordinator, and beginning this new material revision calls for complex scheduling and appropriate staffing to achieve strategic, as Duran said, strategic priority number 1, academic excellence. We will be adding the instructional coach for next year to ensure that our students have interventions, as well to close achievement gap, as well as to support and provide opportunities for our advanced students.
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, keep going, please.
Our GALA night in Tokyo was a big success. All 220 attendees enjoyed the evening, and as of today, our numbers are still settling, but these are very close. The net profit of the event is $82,110, although we are still selling a few items that were sold at the event. We were able to cover 1/3 of our cost with sponsorships. So with ticket sales and sponsorships combined, we were only missing about $5,000 to enter the event with all costs covered, which is very good. During the live ask, I'm proud to say, $52,500 were raised for technology, which was clearly a designation that caught the attention of our guests. The live action raised the most money since our school has hosted a gala, and that was $8,250. This year, there was a new venue for the event, the Santa Monica Bay Women's Club, and it was not an all-inclusive location, so we had to bring in many services than previous years included, such as expenditures, catering, rentals, valet service, and security. With expenses close to $33,000, we clearly stayed below the mark of should not exceed 30% of the revenue.
How many attendees?
We had 220.
Yeah, that was good, that was good,
I thought I'd share one of the pictures that will be on display at the Gold Ribbon Award Ceremony luncheon. This is one of the photos that I chose to represent our diversity as well as our amazing, happy students. I would like to report on the German language proficiency A1 and A2 tests as part of the diversity report this evening. As you know, all students are tested in terms of German language proficiency with 2 tests, the A1 and the A2. A1 is usually administered in 3rd grade. If not passed, the student can retake the test in 4th or 5th. A2 is usually administered in the 5th grade. And students that do not pass can retake the A2 in the alumni program, which some of you may see being dismissed at 6 o'clock if they're a little early on Mondays. So we had 29 5th graders who took the A2 test, with 27 of the 29 that took the test passed. So that's the highest we've had. That's a rate of 93% of those who took the test. But it is 67% though of all 5th graders. 10 of the 11 6th graders in the alumni program took the A2 test and passed. The remaining 5th graders have all passed the A1, which is the first step. Of the 46 3rd grade students, 31 took the test and 30 passed. It's a very high rate. But of all 3rd graders, we have now 65% who have passed the A2. And I want to conclude with a couple of things that were listed on the agenda, but I did not make a slide about it. The first one is the enrollment process and the use of the intent to enroll forms audit. The LAUSD Office of Inspector General will audit our school's processes for enrollment and the use of the intent to enroll forms next week on May the 18th. A notification of this audit came shortly after LAUSD received in February, after we received, in February, a notice of concern from the Charter Schools Division's Operations Coordinator, who cited a Goethe parents posting on Facebook and what appeared to be unprincipled methods of obtaining intent to enroll forms. I am currently preparing information for our audit next week and documentation. I think we are very well prepared. I think we will do fine in the audit. The auditors will come as a team and spend probably most of the day on the 18th with us looking at our Prop 39 application as well as our policies for collecting enrollment forms and our, as I said, the Prop 39 application. And they will also conduct interviews with Biggie as well as with me.
I saw some, I want to just go, you have some links, no comment?
I'm good, thank you.
And lastly, our school will be recognized by State Superintendent of Public Instruction on May 24th as a Gold Ribbon School. Pete Goldschmidt, Board of Trustees member, Tony Thomas, Vice President of the GPA, Biggie Schultzer and myself will attend the luncheon and accept the award on behalf of our students, staff, and community. And I just wanted to very briefly share a letter that I just received from Jose Gutierrez. Dear Executive, Laura, on behalf of the Charter Schools Division, it is with great enthusiasm that I congratulate you, On your school's achievement as a 2016 Elementary Gold Ribbon School as selected by the California Department of Education. The California Gold Ribbon School Awards Program recognizes schools that have made gains in implementing the academic content and performance standards adopted by the State Board of Education. We celebrate this achievement with you and your school community and recognize the purposeful effort you have put forth to provide quality educational opportunities for our students. Again, congratulations to your entire team of staff, students, and families on this great achievement. We look forward to your continued contributions to the lives of the youth we are all privileged to serve. Sincerely, Jose Cole Gutierrez, Director of the Charter School Division. And I will end with very positive.
So with that, I know we spent a lot of time and we opened up for discussion on this item. I think it was necessary. The 30 minutes we completely exceeded, but I think it was valuable for all of us to ask questions at the proper time. Are there any further questions? If that is not the case, I would like to invite the public for any further comments, and if so,
I think Alice's point about, go ahead.
please, did you sign in?
I will.
Okay, and then please state your name.
The sign rate.
Sign sheet.
I just reiterate a little bit Alice's point about marketing.
And please state your name.
Brett O'Connor.
Brett O'Connor, and your relationship to the school.
My daughter Naya is in first grade.
Perfect, thank you.
And Bill Stevens. I just think it's a multi-year process to get the word out about the good work that Goethe does. I think we need to be thinking about how we move the political will that's going to be necessary to do all the things we want to do, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. I loved hearing about the brand guide. That's a good first step, but I think somebody, consultant otherwise, that's dedicated to marketing and thinking about how do we build these success stories for the school that we can get out into the community, where the community understands who we are, is very important. So.
Thank you for your comment. I'd like to leave it at this point and move on to item number 6A, approval of February financials and approval of March financials, which is item B. I know we have Stephanie on the phone. Stephanie, are you still there?
I am still here.
Okay.
I'm characteristically muted.
Right. Thank you. We haven't engaged you in the conversation, so I apologize for that. Do we have a general recommendation from the Finance Committee in regards to the, before we go into a 5-minute presentation for item A and B?
I don't, since I'm not there, I suggest that if the financials get presented by Ryan, assuming he is there.
He is. Is there a general recommendation for you to approve it?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Yes, we, the Finance Committee recommends approval of the February financial.
Okay. Good. February and the same is true for.
Because it is a committee, a committee has made the recommendation, it does not require a second.
Okay. So we don't need a second. So the recommendation is we can go right to the vote. Is that true for the March as well?
Yes, do you want to treat?
No. I just want to get your opinion before we go.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we have a recommendation. It doesn't require a second. We have a recommendation to approve March and February and March financials. And with that, I want to give Ryan the floor.
Okay, I am Ryan Griffin from XED, and I'll be presenting the financials for the months of February and March. In front of you, you'll have a packet with, that states that this is the financial dashboard for the month of March. And the month of March encompasses year-to-date actuals as of March, which includes February. So we'll be talking about both at the same time. I'll start off with enrollment. For the school, as of month 8, we have 394 students enrolled. which is a little less than our projected enrollment for the year, our budgeted enrollment of 398. However, our average daily attendance is much higher but than our budgeted amount of 95%. We've been trending very closely to 98%, which means that the students that are here are coming at a greater percentage than what we budgeted for, so that's great. And that is also driving up revenue. Any questions regarding enrollment?
Ryan, please continue. We hold the question until the end.
Okay. Moving on to the income statement portion of the presentation. There's not a lot of change in the variances that we have been sharing at previous board meetings, but I will just recap that we are receiving about $44,000 higher in our LCFF funding, which is due to the higher percentage of average daily attendance. In addition to that, we have about $30,000 in state revenue, which is also tied to the enrollment, and an additional $30,000 in other revenue, which was one-time funding for educator effectiveness, and that came out to about $30,000, and it is to be used specifically for teacher professional development. And that revenue is recognized this year. However, the expense must be incurred over the next 3 years. So it's similar to the Common Core Plan, where we received money 1 year and we had 2 years to spend it. For educator effectiveness, we have 3 years to spend this revenue. And we have a placeholder in the budget of $30,000 in new expense in our operating section, just as a placeholder should we have utilized that revenue this year. However, it doesn't look as though we will. It looks as though we will be using that money next year instead. But I just wanted to let the board know that we do have that money added into this budget in the expenditures to offset the revenue so as not to overstate net income if we were not to use the money this year. In terms of expenses, we had the same variances for salaries, about $30,000 and just under $50,000 for classified. And the reasoning behind this is timing of staffing. We didn't have our staffing plan in place as of the first day of school. So as the months went on, we realized savings until those positions were filled. Going on to the opposite way, in student supplies, our $13,000 overage has to do with increased spending for the meal plan. So we have a much higher expense this year than originally budgeted for our meal plan. And our operating expenses consist of the $30,000 in the assumed educator effectiveness spending for this year, as well as our equipment lease for our copiers has been coming in higher than we originally planned on. So those are the big variances as of March, and look to be the variances for the entire year. In terms of the balance sheet, we had $2 million in the bank as of the end of March. We had just under that for the end of February, and we're forecasting year-end cash of $1.4 million with just under $300,000 in our accruals. So we'll be receiving about $300,000 of our 15-16 earned revenue. This year we'll be receiving the actual cash early on in the summer months of 16-17. Other thing to highlight is that the school remains 100% debt-free, so we don't owe anyone any money on our balance sheet. Any questions now regarding the dashboard before we take a look at the check registers?
I have a question, Brian.
Yes.
Just on Are we, so the fiscal year end, is that June 30th or July 30th?
June 30th.
Okay. So are we projecting, so this is that year-to-date as of March, so for April, May, and June, are we projecting losses on the P&L for those months?
We project losses pretty much throughout the year, the P&L, because we are cash basis throughout the year, and the way it works for schools is we're always funded on a lag. So we're incurring a lot of our expenses in a month and not receiving our revenue until the following month, and in some cases, a few months after that even.
Okay, so I'm just trying to reconcile because the monthly cash keeps going up on the reserves. So that's my question. Are we going to be then burning through 300,000 plus by the end of, to get to that forecast, June 30th surplus? Because we're trending, and it's just for budgeting standpoint, we keep trending, the year-to-date income keeps increasing. So our monthly costs on an accrual basis are fixed, our revenue is fixed on an accrual basis. So my question is, are we going to be getting to that $207,000 level each month on a monthly basis? Meaning, are we going to see the reserves starting to go down?
No, so that's a very good question, and I think I can speak to it.
Okay.
So as I said, our average daily attendance is higher than what we originally budgeted for, and the reason why the net income has been increasing each month is because from a budgeting standpoint, while we know that our ADA is higher, each month that goes by, we're still maintaining our original budgeted amount. So when month 6 passed, for example, we had high ADA. We maintained our original budget for months 7 through 10. When month 7 happened, we had higher ADA. So ADA is directly related to revenue. So each month of high ADA is adding more revenue assumed to the school, and that's what's driving up the net income each month.
So the net income, assuming that the ADA continues to maintain, to be at that level, our year-to-date net income for April will go up.
Correct.
Our year-to-date income for May will go up.
Given that all things in the expense side remain constant, that is a good assumption, yes.
Which they will, given the nature of the school. So our reserves will continue to go up.
Yeah, so when you speak of reserves, I'm looking down in the equity section of the beginning fund balance.
Yep.
So as of this year, we had 1.4 in our reserves, right? And then whatever our net income at year end, we're forecasting 207. That will increase our reserves from 1.4 to roughly 1.6.
Okay. So basically, we're going to end up close to 600 plus in net income versus our original budget of 42,000.
Correct.
Okay. That's a very large variance.
Mm-hmm.
No, thanks. I just wanted to, not putting you on the spot, just wanted to point that out.
Javier?
2 questions. What's our pre-reduced lunch percentage?
24%.
24%. Oh, it's quite small. Are we breaking even on the meal program?
We're trending a little bit behind in terms of receipt of paid lunches. So we have a lot of, well, not a lot, I don't have the exact data in front of me today, Javier, but I do know that when I met with Biggie, she had seen that we are a little behind in the collection of the paid lunches.
And what's our, sorry, I think I've asked this before, what's our enrollment petition number? What's our cap?
460.
455 this year, 467.
That's our petition
That's
planned
the
number?
Yes.
Looking at the numbers, we're quite short. right? So we're looking at 395, probably a couple of classrooms short.
We didn't get the classrooms this year.
So is that
That's
the?
why, we only had 16 classrooms to
Got it.
work on.
And LAUSD is, you reported that to them and they're good with that?
Good with, yes.
With our,
Yes.
us being short?
Yes.
Because they're, you know,
We didn't have the room.
say, they're sticklers for enrollment, so whatever you plan, they want to know that you're going to meet that.
Would have a quick question?
Quick question.
Yes, maybe a quick answer too. So just to clarify, the drop in cash, not reserves or equity, but cash from 2,024,000 to 1.4 million end of March to forecast of end of June. What's the rationale behind that? Or
It won't happen. That's what Ryan and I were talking about, that can't happen.
Well,
We're adding to it.
well, yeah, you're correct. So our cash will continue to increase each month that we do receive money, but you have a good point because our cash will be lower at year end because the money that we earn today, we don't receive until tomorrow. So the money that we're gonna earn as of June 30th, we're not gonna get it all until July, August, and some of it's gonna even seep into September and
so that's
October.
the 88 that you were talking about that we just received at the beginning of next school year?
Yeah.
Okay.
The actual cash flow.
Is that a recurring phenomenon? Because I see that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Frank,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
may I make a quick comment?
Sure.
I just wanted to follow up on the questions concerning the reserves and let the board know that the finance committee has begun to review and develop a policy for the reserve. And our intention is to present that to the board at the same time that the board will be considering the budget for the coming year. So, you'll be able to look at that in the Dropbox. Duran and I, and Glennis, and Becky are actively working on that. So I just wanted that word to be spoken in the minutes recording that.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Shall we move on to the cash? Oh, Alex, sorry.
Thank you. The balanced scorecard. Have we made any progress in updating the balanced scorecard? I thought the workflow was going to be that Excel was going to update the financial portion, then it would flow to the admin team here to update some of the historical performance data. I really would like to, and I volunteered my time for this in the past, I really would like to see the scorecard published in May. The first version of it is this May.
You're speaking to me?
Yes, it was, I'm not sure if you were in the room when it was discussed with Excel, but it has been discussed with Excel at this board meeting.
A balanced score?
Yeah, we've submitted a framework of a template, and some of the financial information was supposed to get transferred from the various historical P&L and income statement, balance sheets.
And is Gwennis aware of the requirements?
I have a copy.
Okay, I can speak to Gwennis regarding that.
Again, happy to volunteer a few hours.
Good. Let's go into the check register. Any observations you want to share with us, Ryan?
No, I would just like to point out that the board should take time and look through all of the disbursements because these are public funds. And if there are any questions or concerns related to any disbursements that the school had in the months of February and March, please ask, and either I or Gwennis will be able to answer them for you.
I had a question on a reimbursement of airfare to Germany. Do you know what that was about? To Michelle Field?
She needed to return so she could be reissued a different visa. It required her to return to her home country. So then we could retain her to teach. That's when we lost our second grade teacher because she was pregnant, so we were in an emergency situation. We were
So
very-
it's not typical we
It's
would
not
pay.
typical, but we were very fortunate that we were able to secure a new visa for her to return to pick up that classroom to teach.
So with that, I'd like to have we have a recommendation. We only need a motion to approve the February financial.
Can I do one more question?
Sure.
So apparently some of the positive variances has to do with the fact that staffing wasn't fully developed by the beginning of last school year. Is that gonna not happen this year?
Won't happen. We added additional positions as far as instructional assistants. And we had also the German, we weren't able to find a German teacher. And we had a teacher, we also had a teacher that quit the day before school started.
Right, I know.
So things were really out of our control.
I mean, I know you have a
We
staffing
worked-
plan, but.
We worked very hard.
Forecasting for those kind of things.
Right, we worked very hard to make sure everything was filled before school started, but we had some unique situations this year. Hopefully won't repeat.
With that, do I have a motion to accept the February? No second required. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, which gives us the item, oh, aye, I'm sorry, aye. I heard your aye, Stephanie. Which gives us, moves on to March.
No, that presentation encompassed both.
Yeah.
That was
Okay.
March and February.
Okay, but we need to make sure that we can't vote on it. They are two distinct items, so we should vote on them separately.
Mhm.
Okay.
A and B.
A, there was A. We
Yeah.
voted
So
for
let's
A.
vote for B.
Let's vote for B. Motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Aye.
Aye. Aye again. Next time it will all be better when you're present. Moving right along to resolution to authorize executive director and executive proposition Prop 39 use agreement. Gwenys, please provide some background.
And this resolution is required in order that I can negotiate with Ms. Machado as far as the shared use of space, and to also authorize the signing. I am the one that signs along with Ms. Machado, so you will be giving permission for me to sign the final use agreement. And so this resolution is written and needs to be read out loud.
Oh my God. Resolution. Oh, secretary.
Thank you.
She reads much better.
I'm gonna do that, and then I also have to sign it. I know, I'm like, I cannot leave this meeting until I do this.
Just read it.
Okay,
It's short.
just read quickly.
Pressure. Resolution of the Board of Trustees. A resolution of the Board of Trustees of Goethe International Charter School to authorize Executive Director to execute Proposition 39 use agreement. The GICS Board of Trustees wishes to authorize the signing of the Proposition 39 use agreement to accept LAUSD's final notification of space to GICS. It is resolved that the following individual is authorized to take all steps necessary pursuant to their role to submit the final Proposition 39 use agreement. Gwenys Lauren, GICS Executive Director, is hereby authorized to execute the Proposition 39 use agreement for school year 2016-2017. This is adopted by the Board of Trustees of GICS at the board meeting on the 9th of May 2016. The resolution was adopted with the following votes, and then we have to choose aye, nays, abstentions, and then I have to certify it. That I certify that I am the duly elected secretary, a California nonprofit public benefit corporation. I hereby certify the foregoing is true and correct. And then I have to sign with my signature, so we have to.
Sign. So, is there need for discussion? Is there a motion?
I motion.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Stephanie? Okay. Good. Motion carries. Item number D, approval of Dickinson employee benefits for the 2016-17 school year. Gwenys Lauer, 5 minutes.
I am requesting the board that we continue working with Dickerson Employee Benefits. They have been providing benefits through Charter Life, which would be our health, our medical benefits for our staff for the past 4 years that I've been here, and I think before that. So they have, you have in your Dropbox some of the benefits of working with them. I know personally Nancy Ramos has been extremely accessible in times of need, has been very open to discuss any benefits plan with our staff, has always made herself available. Once this is approved to continue with the group, she will come to the staff meeting and present the different options for the benefits plan. I know that Charter Life does offer employees many options, not just one type of benefits plan, but I know there's about 3 or 4 different options that they can choose from, and that's always seen very positively by our staff. So my recommendation is to continue with Dickerson Employee Benefits as our long-standing provider for health benefits for our employees.
Discussion, comments? Alex?
When is the contract has to be signed then?
The Dickerson, well, we like to have them present to the staff meeting before the end of the school year because they have a turnaround time of a few weeks, so they like everything in place by, I'd say, June 10th.
Have they gone out to bid to different providers this year?
Yes, they do.
And
They
is
do
there,
that
is there a
for us.
financial overview of the bids received, that they have received from the other, do they have a summary sheet that they present?
I do not have that available this evening. They have made it available in the past. I remember, I believe last year or the year before they did, but since we're staying with the same organization and I know that they do that for us, I didn't ask for them.
Just a common part of this is that I am inclined not to approve this at work until I see bids come in from, usually we will get a second, after 3 years we will get a bid from a different resource provider, just to make sure that the current provider is really obtaining the competitiveness. And then I request a summary sheet to see all the different bids that they received, so we can see that they are negotiating on our behalf with the various providers.
Other comments?
I have. So, when Dickerson comes out, they present various options, correct? They present high, low, CMO, whatever.
PPO,
HMO, right?
HMO,
et cetera.
PPO, it's a lot of different plans.
How do we go about choosing what's best for
The
the
choice
staff?
is with the employee. They have X amount of dollars to
How much?
work with.
I'm sorry?
$700. $700 per employee. They have that to work with to cover their medical, dental, and vision. And so if they exceed that cost, if what they pick, let's say, is a PPO high, then they have the burden of paying the additional cost, monthly cost. So
Was there an increase in our contribution to?
No, it has remained the same.
Was there an increase in cost?
Yes, it goes up
And
every
we
year.
have not matched the cost?
No.
I would encourage the board, since I'm just throwing this out.
Yeah.
Can I provide a
It goes
perspective?
up every
You
year.
know, we have, based on our current population of teachers and staff, the majority of the staff does not use the $700 monthly allotted to them.
Okay, so it's- Right.
So there is no, while the cost went up about 4.7% year over year,
It's
4.2.
4.2 or 4.1, it doesn't have any impact if the population stays the same. There is a broker agency in that space for small clients. I know that our firm provides the same services, but not for clients of that size. And so Dickinson, when I asked around years ago, is a good agency, but I would encourage us to go to bid like every other vendor every 3 years, just to make sure, as we are a public entity, that we are doing all that stuff going forward basis. I like that principle. It's just a comment, I should refrain from it, but I wanted to jump in because I'm a subject matter expert on some of this stuff.
And it's sound advice what Alex has said, and what you support, Frank, in terms of every 3 years. The one thing that jumps out at me is that the 4.31%, again, I don't know what the baseline is, but if they're a very reputable firm and they're out, brokering services, then you can have, some comfort there. But the 4.3% headline increase seems extremely modest to me.
Yes,
Of general healthcare inflation. But what I know we pay are double-digit increases annually. So I throw that as a point out there, but that doesn't necessarily mean I don't agree every 3 years you should revisit it. It's a very modest number.
Especially
my understanding.
Yeah, so with that, I'd like to ask everybody, is there anybody who's motioning?
I'll make the
Yeah, Javier?
I'll second.
Javier? I'd like to call the vote. Are we all in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Nay? You're nay. Alex is saying nay. Duly noted. Item number E. Oh, Stephanie.
I'll be gay.
She's the Item number D, Ms. Laura again. Affidavit of governing board member for instructional time credit at school closure. 5 minutes. Could you please provide a perspective?
Yes, we will request as a school apportionment to be maintained for instructional time credited for our school on December 15th that was closed for the terrorist threat. This requires an affidavit signed by the board. So in order, because of this emergency, it is a recognized emergency by the California Department of Education that we can obtain instructional time for that day. And instructional minutes will not be lost. So I'm asking the board this evening to sign the affidavit for instructional time credited for school closure on December 15th, 2015 due to the terrorist threat.
Do we also get ADA for that?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the
Okay, this will require
But
signatures.
hang on, well, wait a second.
Okay.
Without no
Without
instruction, how can you claim there were instructional minutes?
I'm sorry?
Because there's no instruction.
It's a credit.
It's a credit.
I understand, but there's no instruction.
There are 3 occasions where they will give credit. It's time missed. It's a request for allowance of attendance because of emergency conditions. One is a school closure.
Well, I understand that there's credit, but I disagree that on a matter of principle, that's assuming that there was instruction taking place. And then you
Agreed.
made it somewhere else.
It's just like in Michigan when we had snow days. The State Department, the Michigan State Department would credit 6 of the 12, when we had 12 days of snow, and they would credit 6 of them for instructional time. It's whatever set by the Department of Education to credit for school closure. And, it comes from them. I mean, I don't.
No, I understand the formality of it, but I'm just saying that the principle of it, that that's assuming that something took place that didn't happen.
Mhm. And I guess based on Education Code Section 46200, it's allowed.
Yes, I understand it's allowed.
So we would want to take advantage of that. So we don't lose the day.
Yeah, philosophically,
I see, yeah.
we all agree, I'm sure. But yeah, it comes straight from the state.
Is your
Allows
concern
the
an
credit.
educational one? Sorry, I mean, there seem to be 2 aspects. One is the financial one, which I believe, which I understand, and then is there an educational one, just for the purpose of students actually getting the instruction that they were supposed to get, or what was?
The credit doesn't work its way towards the student, so one is not saying that the credit is making our students any better, it's purely financial credit.
They lost a day of instruction, basically.
They did it actually.
They can't
Yeah,
make, and we
use
can't
part.
make it up.
Yeah.
And not only after school program, et cetera.
I'm making the assumption that the entire school system goes overboard to make up for the time that's missed. The kids don't get to stay in school longer, but I'm presuming they still work. I'm assuming they work faster and harder to catch up with what they missed with half their. If they had missed 6 days, then it would be difficult to assume how they would make up that time. But I presume that they're getting students to catch up.
So, because it used to be the case that you would budget for X number of snow days, and then you would not use all of those. This is very different from that. So we don't have any budget for snow days or
Right,
curricular.
right.
Any further comments?
Do we expect this to recur?
Well, if there's a terrorist attack, yes.
I mean, it's like a anomaly, so it's
Right,
not
it's
something
like
that we
it's the
need
first
to.
time, it's the first time in 8 years of operation.
Sure, what I mean with that is, to Pete's point, I think from a budgeting point of view, it actually is a valid point, but I think snow days are probably something that are predictable to some degree or rationally more
Same as just
justifiable.
This may never happen
Do you think terror attacks are more?
No, I mean like
Unpredictable
snow
days.
days.
in
Oh,
Snow days for
California.
Southern California.
Yeah, not really, but yeah, again.
And budget, we can budget for it.
Right.
You were talking
Sorry,
about-
I'm sorry, I've just been.
Yeah, Secretary
Okay.
needs to go.
No, I like, it's a very, very solid concern, and I don't want to
Not
belittle
it's
it
not
by
a
all
snow day,
means.
of course not, but we will have an earthquake day.
Right?
Yeah.
We will have a fire day.
Absolutely,
There
we
are
don't want to
plenty of things
belittle
that happen
it.
here,
Right.
and potentially a thought could be to budget in an extra day or two,
Right.
then at the end of the year you can give back.
That is a good point,
It
very
is.
well taken, and I apologize for, it was no intention to belittle any of your comments.
None taken?
Okay. With that, I like that, we should take up on the suggestion. I take up on the suggestion. I'd like to, is there a motion?
I'll make
Yeah.
a motion.
Where's my second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of adopting the
Aye.
motion?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
All in
Aye.
favor? Okay, thank you. Aye. Item F, approval of engagement letter for Attorney Christine E. Wong.
Okay, Christine Kwong, some of you may remember, did our Brown Act training last January and also attended the board's educational meeting on charter school financing this past February. She's a partner with Music, Peeler, and Garrett, and she specializes in employment with HR law. Our school requires ongoing support in the area of human resources. I have interviewed Christine and find that her expertise will meet our need, and I'm asking the board recommend a approval of her engagement letter, which you have in your Dropbox. She has graciously offered an hourly rate that's far lower than her normal hourly rate, in fact, even her normal hourly rate in working with LAUSD schools.
Can you also, we know, I'm asking a pointed question here, can you provide a perspective? We have been using Procopio in the past, and why would we change? I'm
Her
sorry.
specialty is, as I said, in HR and employment law, where I've used Procopio extensively actually this year for special education expertise. I find, her rate is comparable. The thing that I like about Christine and Procopio special ed, Christine, her focus is in HR, is the fact that she's local too. She's right here, accessible, can come on a dime, where Procopio, although I love the attorney very much, she had to drive, for a due process hearing from Encinitas or from San Diego area. They're not local, so that is.
You need to house them.
definitely-
And we
You have to
pay
pay
for all of
for
that
the
time.
mileage, the housing, the hotel, and she is local. And I think you've all seen her work, and she's really sharp.
And the scope of work you have in mind for her?
The scope of work will be looking at our teacher contracts. They have not had legal review since I've been here, and they need to have that, as well as our staff handbook and the policies, anywhere from taking leave of absence to all of those policies. All of those policies need looked at and revised.
Alex? Oh,
Sorry.
I gotta pick one, how are you?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So is this a retainer or is it fee for service or is it
Fee
just
for
a preference of a professional?
Fee for service, I would like to engage her immediately to, first, our teacher contracts need signed in a week or so. That would be her first order of business. So it would be immediate service.
Alex?
This is supports rates that you mentioned she's negotiable, but compared to the other our current vendor, is it the same rate or cheaper?
She's, I think, $15 more, but that was after negotiating the one we're using now down to $50 an hour. So it's very close,
Sorry.
very close.
And are we going to exclude them for immigration visas? Because otherwise it could get extremely expensive using this firm. Because under the HR umbrella, I'm afraid that we're not going to be using them for immigration. And immigration should best be done based on a flat, fixed fee.
We do that, and we'll continue to do that.
So we will not use them. So this
No.
is, they will not use them for that.
Correct.
Any other further comments? I do want to call the motion, but I need a motion first.
I'll make the motion to approve Music Peeler and Christine Kwong for HR services.
Good HR.
I'll second
I second it. Calling the vote.
Here it says for legal services, it doesn't say for HR.
So we refined it for,
We've modified it.
modified it for HR services. Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, perfect. We're cruising right along. It's a longer meeting today, so thank you. You should come.
We should.
She did sign it already.
Do I need to sign anything else? It was Frank's name, not second.
That's doing it, just. Oh, that's what I do. Items for discussion. A, discussion of timeline for related processes for middle school.
Okay, as we look for expansion to the middle school, I proposed 2 scenarios that are placed in the board's Dropbox. The first scenario would have a middle school submission of material revision to add grades 6 to 8 in January 2017. The second scenario would be to submit the material revision in the spring of 2017 with a middle school opening in the fall of 2018. And the reason these scenarios are different is really based on the feedback that I received from Chris Humphrey, our specialist at the Charter School Division. She believes that we are ready to submit, and she will give us that information that we need. I am counting on it. I know it will happen, but it's really going to depend a lot on how the material revision for the German language track, or say track options program, how that really materializes in the fall. She's made it very clear to me that she wants to see data from that program to see that we are doing 2 things. Number 1, closing the achievement gap for our underserved population, as well as retaining those students and not losing those students in enrollment. So that data is going to be very critical in determining if we have the capacity to grow. If we're actually meeting the needs of our students, and having that capacity will depend on the data we collect. So in looking at the 2 scenarios, the first scenario is really only collecting data in this coming fall through January, and the other one is collecting data for a year, almost a year. And when you look at that logically, you would say that the more data we get, the better the results, hopefully, if we have implemented in place the structure that we need. So that's really basically why the 2 different scenarios. If you would ask which one I prefer, I would say it's too early to decide because we haven't even started the program yet to see how it's working, because this is a very big undertaking for us and something new, and we want it to be successful so that we're perceived by LAUSD as doing something that's really right for our educational program serving our students. So,
And what did the Charter
that's my-
Division recommend of these 2 scenarios?
She said no submission of a material revision before January. She said don't even think about doing it in the fall, you haven't even opened your program. But they don't want to see one. The earliest would be January, and that is only if we have good data, good results, things that we can show. And as I said, collecting data for 3 months isn't going to be as robust as collecting it for 6 or 7. So that's the dilemma. So that's why the 2 scenarios. The other part too, when you think of Prop 39, you submitting a material revision in January would not allow us to have Prop 39 application in November. But if we did the following fall, we would be able to, that's another, besides the data, we'd be able to submit for Prop 39 facility. Because we'd have it approved in the late spring, have the summer to plan, and in the fall, we would submit Prop 39. Gives them more time. So really, there's two issues, Prop 39 and the length of time to collect the right data.
So the collection of data in one goes until December because we won't apply in January. And the second option goes until
Right.
June, even though we're planning to submit the revision
Right.
in February. So
It could have said
factually, it's
spring.
really just 1 month more that we have because once you submit your application, the data tracking is irrelevant
It
beyond
would
that.
be a couple more months.
Sure, because
Yeah,
we're talking
couple
1 more
more.
month, okay.
Which would be another benchmark. When we look at how our benchmarks
Yeah.
are given, we do have a benchmark in January, February, which would give us more data. So we'd be hitting another data point.
Based on past experience or past submissions, at least two variables or metrics stand out. One is the achievement aspect of it. The other one is also diversity. What's a realistic time frame for us to actually be able to reshape our diversity profile so that it actually represents what LAUSD wants to see?
Well, as you know, it really increased, I mean, a significant increase in the demographics was 2 years ago. And this year, we really stabilized, but we did have less enrollment. Although we stayed at 29% Hispanic this year, it was looking at less kids. You know, I haven't had a chance to really study the students coming in and to look at the demographics aspect of that to give you a clear answer on how it's looking for next year. You know, but hopefully it's it's moving upwards. I mean, realistically, to go beyond 30 quickly is going to be tough.
What do you think is a bigger bottleneck for us to get the approval? The diversity or the
I think
achievement?
I think the achievement. I think as long as they see an upwards trend or stable or just some movement, that's going to be fine. But what they're really looking at is, are you meeting the needs of the students that you have? The diverse population that you have? Are you closing that achievement gap? Are you meeting their needs? I think that would be stronger.
So just to
Yeah.
clarify your statement, so you're saying the trend relates to the diversity, right? Just being able to show the trend. But as
Right.
far as the achievement, it's not the trend, it's like a clear.
I think so,
clear
but that's
result.
my opinion. She hasn't said that to me, but I know that's the focus when they come to oversight, that's the focus, more than the other. Not saying the other isn't important, but I feel
Sure,
like
sure.
there's more emphasis on the academics.
I mean, on that note, I mean, so I have some sobering thoughts, but I think we should just hear it out. I mean, maybe it's a buzzkill, but I don't want it to be that. I think we need to be very practical. I think this is, a great, what we need to do is need to have a discussion about these scenarios. I'm glad that you put this down in terms of for us to think about. As people know, I'm in the investment industry. And some of the cardinal rules for investments are don't fall in love with your technology, don't fall in love with your industry, don't fall in love with the management, and don't fall in love with your product or service. You have to underwrite your investments really based on the fundamental merits of that thesis. So when I look kind of historically, if we look at our first material revision, statistically, we have a 50-50 chance. So you either get approved or you get denied. I think now we have less than a 50-50 chance. Why? Because we've had 3 successive denials. So I think it's significantly less. To just be honest, I'm just putting this out there. I think, to be perfectly honest, I think we have less than a 50-50 chance. But we have the opportunity to improve those odds. And it's incumbent upon us to improve those odds. And why I say that is we've turned a new leaf, I think, with your relationship with Chris Humphrey. We've brought in, we have a lot of insight and expertise on the board. We are investing in the school. We're a very fortunate school. We've got tremendous amount of resources, both intellectual resources, capital resources in particular, that we can invest in the school. But I think, for us to be really successful with these timelines is that we're going to have to really be careful of the risk of permanent denial. And when I say permanent denial, I mean we've been denied 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. We cannot take that risk of having a 4th denial, because I think what it'll do is put a mound of evidence and say, hey, Greta, we've looked at you, and these are the reasons. And the bar becomes so high, it could be almost insurmountable. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we have a lot going for us to prevent that. But we have to really learn from what we've done in the past. And again, we have this new leaf, we have this new relationship, which I'm very positive about, what I've seen and what I've heard so far. And we've taken the first step in the right direction with the material revision. We've got points on the board with LAUSD. Now, that is more for the betterment of our elementary school rather than middle school, but they're all related. It does feed in. But I think we have to look at those points as an achievement for the elementary school, and not necessarily to give us too much hubris thinking that, hey, we're going to automatically get, able to achieve the same thing with the middle school expansion. So I think we have to really come close to perfect information on where we fell short, what we've corrected, looking at those denial letters and tackle it point by point by point to the point that we have so much confidence that we've addressed those issues, that we have the feedback from Chris every step of the way. I would be very reluctant to put something forward where we haven't done that, where we have a high degree of certainty, and we've used her as a sounding board, as a tremendous sounding board, that what she did for us in material revision, that she gives us that information. Now, I'm skeptical because I'm in the business of being skeptical, that we can achieve that in scenario 1. Just the data. If we look at the merits of the fundamentals, which they need to evaluate, I'm skeptical. But I think if we are able to make a tremendous progress on that path, we can get there. But I don't think there's room or margin for error, to be perfectly honest, because we cannot, if we're going to do this endeavor for the expansion, we have to have certainty. And I think it's incumbent upon this board, if there's any degree of concern that we have not achieved those objectives that we think is necessary looking from the past, then we shouldn't go forward. If there's any bit of doubt, we shouldn't go forward, we should wait. Because again, I think that risk of permanent denial exists. So just throw that out there. Again, hopefully that's not a buzzkill, but I just think we need to be looking at this in a very focused lens.
Yeah, personally, I don't think that exists, permanent denial. It just doesn't exist. And 2 is, fortunately for us, we're in the business, not in the business of finance. This is the people business, and you got to go in with a lot of passion and a lot of belief that it's going to happen. Obviously you got to line your ducks in order. You got to be ready to really fight. You got to go out and get it. No one's going to give it to you. The folks that are out there at LAUSD, they're blocking everybody because those are the politics. So it doesn't matter if you have if we're waiting for the perfect petition, the perfect time, it's never going to happen. You have to go out and get it. They're not going to hand you the petition, and that's the thing I've been trying to tell you guys, that, while, the petition or the idea to get it out there, if we're calculating too much, it's not going to happen. You got to go out and get it. You got to have consultants that are going to be, palm pressing, kind of greasing the wheels. You got to work in tandem with a lot of people, making sure that it's working in every direction. It's not about the petition. It's about the politics. So the politics are real bad right now, but people are still getting approved, and with lackluster petitions, because they've done their homework, because they've gone in with a lot of passion, and that's what gets you through. We've done that. We've done that several times, so it's, it's the will, you got to get out there. You got to be IB. You got to be a risk taker. You got to get out there. There's not going to be a permanent wall that you can't get over. It's there, obviously, but, you know, you could go around it. So, you know, and I'm not speaking specifics, but, you know, it can't be done. You know, we can't sit on our hands either, you know, or over-calculate it, you know, because these are soft skills. It's not math that we need to, you know, utilize at this point.
Any other comment? I think let's hear Tara first.
Yeah, I actually agree with both of you. I think we need the passion, we need to push. I also think we need to do it in the right way. I think if you look at these two scenarios, the second scenario makes so much more sense. Obviously, we want to come in strong and show data and supporting documentation that we are ready to do this. I think the second scenario gives us that time. It also gives us more time for planning the middle school once we are approved. So I think that our ducks are almost in a row. I think this is that last piece that we're missing. I think we should look at the past petitions and make sure we incorporate anything that wasn't successful into this one, but I say we go for it.
Let me just say this, Duran. You know, if they want you to go through, and trust me, I've experienced this with many schools, if they want you to go through, if the politics are okay, they will help you rewrite everything. Okay, but if they don't want you to go through for whatever reason, they're going to stop you at every sentence. You know, this isn't right. That isn't right. This number's off.
Right,
You know?
and
that's
One
just the
Assist
way it
does a
goes.
good job of building this relationship, and they're to some degree guiding us and helping us along the path, and I think we need to listen to that as well.
Good. Just moving the agenda along, I think we have valuable opinion. Miguel, I want to give you and Pete the last words. I'm refraining from commenting. So Miguel.
So supporting Tara's aspect of being actually in agreement with both of you, I think what I'm hearing Xavier you say is that it's a matter of passion and push. I think my concern there, and also being part of the strategic planning committee that put in place the strategic plan we have in place right now, is that there was a red thread that actually went through every single denial. And so maybe it is because they didn't want to give it to us. So the question that I have, and I'm really more rational as far as like the whole petition process is concerned, having the ducks in a row is like, for me, like the number one question, right? Because there was a red thread that goes through all the answers or rejections. The question then becomes really one of, beyond just getting the ducks in a row, what do we have to what do we need to do in order to get the hands greased, etc., whatever it is? Do we have a checklist of things that we need to do beyond just the obvious homework that is related to the petition to make sure that we are actually checking off all the boxes? Because right now, personally, I have no idea if we're doing that. I really don't know. It goes a little bit back to Alex's comment about, do we have a development resource or anything that actually, anything, a line item that supports that effort? Because right now it's just based on the executive director's initiatives is my impression. So maybe it's for lack of clarity as to like what's really happening or not, but I think it'd be actually good to fully understand it and make sure that we're checking off both sides of the equation there.
You know what?
Thank
One
you.
last comment.
One last comment before we...
The only thing, as I've known Goethe since its beginning, the biggest challenge it's had, it's been diversity. That's it. Diversity.
Yeah.
If you could prove that you're growing in diversity, that's becoming more diversified, I think you're going to get there. As a school, we will get there. But that's everything else. It's 110 plus. I mean, from the other schools that I know, Goethe is out. I mean, you just golden ribbon. I mean, who gets that, right? So that's the only thing. That's the only obstacle that has stopped Goethe from growing its diversity.
Thank you for your comment, Pete.
So I won't comment on the comments. So I do agree that the second scenario is more appropriate because it allows for time to get things, whether it's greasing the wheels or collecting the data, it allows more time. But I think the key point though is, I think you ought to present us with a plan that says, here's what we're going to do in the time until we're going to submit. What are the data elements? What's going to be our evidence? What's going to be, what are the questions that need to be addressed? I mean, rather than waiting until a month before it's due, and let's develop a plan for what we're going to collect as we go, so we can build a case as opposed to putting it all together.
very valid comment. I'd like to close out the discussion. Dominic, I'm hearing you, but I want to move the agenda along. This item is too early for further discussion, for further deeper discussion. We'll leave it in Gwennis's good hand at this stage. We can revisit it at the next meeting. But I would like to thank you for presenting a general outline of the timeline, which is valuable at this stage of the board, of the decision-making process. I don't think we need to belabor it any further at this stage. So with that, I'm using my executive authority to move the agenda along and give Alex the floor for item number B, executive summary of charter school funding presentation.
Thank you very much, Frank. I actually wrote to the school saying that I will not be making a presentation because I missed a presentation from one of the March session. And I needed to be able to speak with that individual and present it to be able to do my homework. And then just to set the stage, I need some clarity from the board in that I created what was supposed to be a one-page, I started the work of what was supposed to be a one-page executive summary, and realized halfway through that without doing a survey monkey of at least the board members of the different choices that we face and what the board voted on, that my document would serve little purpose in attaining momentum. And so that's what I intend to do, is to craft a set of questions that I would like to be able to get the board members to take that survey, and so I can get a much better sense of, not I, but the logic of the questions in terms of the what-if scenarios, that in this scenario, which would you prefer versus, than in this scenario. It's basically taking people through the decision tree, making sure that, because if I draw a very complicated decision tree, I'm not sure people would follow it. And then in that process, I said to myself, haven't had a town hall meeting in a long time. The closest thing to a town hall meeting was our fundraiser, where a comment was made, who would like to see a middle school, and a lot of people said yes. It wasn't quantitative, it was more of an emotional response. And then during the presentations that people have made, when they came through to us, they ended up becoming really conversations whereby a lot of strategy started getting discussed in terms of the options we faced. And for example, many moons ago, we agreed that we would create Goethe International Charter Schools, whereby it would allow us the option of being able to have possibly an entirely different organization as part of Goethe International Charter Schools, moving a middle school, a 6 through 12 or a 6 through 8 school forward, while the infrastructure of this school remained, at least below the executive director level, remained focused on getting this school to achieve the strategic objectives of that has been outlined. And the whole emphasis of that, the fundamental decision that I think we have to as a board recognize, which I don't think you need that much analysis on, is that it is less than a 5% possibility that we will find a campus on the west side of LA that will accommodate even a K through 8 school, based on everything that was discussed. Now, so that's one way of doing it, is for me to pose various questions, get your buy-in, and get to do that. That's one aspect. The other aspect is what I think is the most obvious choice that the board faces, and that is, this is personal recommendation, is to retain 2 organizations. One is the Agassi Turner organization. It's a no-cost commitment to take us through the deliberation and using their financial models and their expertise to develop the business case for either a 6 through 8 or a 6 through 12 school. And initiate that work, because I can't, in terms of the feasibility study that I undertook with Nancy, I can't give more time, just with my work and other obligations, I just can't give that level of time.
What's the second?
And the second one would be to retain the partner from UC Pila that for a specific scope of services, I always forget his name. No, to take us through that. I think that with him, with his profile of really both an attorney and / financier expertise, I don't think we get that financing expertise with our current, not that, and he acknowledges that we can continue to use our current attorneys for the portion of the work which is really which is their work. But I think if we want to put the feasibility of educational continuum for our students on a fast track, we need that expertise to help us get there. So I'm proposing option 2, because the option 1 is going to be more of consensus building and I'm not sure that it will move the needle forward, move the dial forward.
Good, thank you, Alex. Comments? Javier?
Thank you. Being the only charter school developer in the room, I would definitely go a different route. I would like the opportunity, since I have a little bit more time than Alex does, to actually present to the board some other options. The Agassiz plan or the Agassiz organization is definitely a great organization. They do a lot of great work. And I don't know if it may fit what Goethe wants to do. They tend to be more on the Cadillac side, We definitely don't want to be. I don't, given the price range of properties in the area, I don't think we want to be in the Cadillac model. I think we want to be more in the, Hyundai model. I think something that's going to fit us more, because while there is a large, a large bank account, we definitely want to utilize and leverage those monies to get the best bank possible, if that's what the board wants. In terms of properties, I think that there is a higher chance than 5% of the organization finding some properties out there. It might not be maybe a standalone property, but there's definitely options where you could do shared space, with maybe the elementary and the middle school, or the middle school and some other one. There's definitely options out there. I think there can be some properties out there. I don't think we've done the research to find out. Have we? I don't think we've done the research to find out.
We spent $400,000 on that research.
400,000.
That was a couple of years ago, so we knew what the inventory was at that time.
Okay, so do we know what it is now?
No.
So I think, I'd like the opportunity just to present other options out there. There is, the Agassiz is definitely quite expensive. Music Peeler, while they're attorneys, I don't know if they have the development expertise as well. So if that's okay with you guys, I'd definitely like to bring some experts in the field. They're actually developers, not bond people, not attorneys, but actually land developers that actually do this on a regular basis to develop charter schools.
Do we need to move in order to?
No, I think, it's just a discussion, at this point. We have protocol, help me here a little bit on the protocol.
And then we can make a motion at any time.
The question is, well, I have a, so I'm just trying to, so the discussion here, just so we have a framework. So are we discussing right now a private facility, and the work would be for a private facility? Or are we discussing expansion in general, including the middle school, which we just talked about, the two scenarios? I just would like to ground the discussion a bit as to what we're contemplating right now with these two options, just so I'm clear.
Alex? Yeah, so to go, I just see different options than the two scenarios. So the scenario that I see, the part that I agree with you, is that, and I also agree with you that there will be no ideal time to do something. So I think that for me, would be to assign the budget so not a charter school, not a petition revision, but a new charter application
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
for a 6 through 8 school, as whatever the entity is called, which will be a child of Goethe International Charter Schools. Below the executive leader leadership line, the administration that is being created to concentrate on this school achieving its strategic objectives, and creating both a charter application and a private facility for that entity.
Oh, contemporaneous.
Yes, this school would continue to function as is,
Okay.
right? And would not get distracted, and would not have to go back and try to get any form of negotiations with anybody regarding our current platform and our current momentum and inertia.
Okay. Okay, so this is directly related to our timeline for the middle school because it's a different option. So as part of the strategic plan in the appendix, there was an analysis done between a material revision and a new charter petition. There are pros and cons listed there. Now, we haven't had a chance to discuss those pros and cons. Historically, I think we've done 3 material revision applications. So again, it is a little bit early, but that's something that we would want to discuss, whether or not it's a material revision or a petition. I think the assumption was, looking at this, is a material revision. I guess my only comment would be that is a lot on the plate, and I don't know how that would be feasible to do that.
The option that I'm proposing.
Yes, given what we've discussed and, with the strategic plan. And I guess I don't, the other question would be, do we need to marry a middle school with a private facility? Again, that goes back to the McConnell, the historical decisions that were done. Are those two items contingent upon each other versus Prop 39, which I think is the only feasible way to go, given the financial situation of the school and the cost, and also whether or not, I think Prop 39 guarantees you a facility within a 5-mile radius, something to that effect. I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, Glennis.
It's not true.
No, 5 miles, yeah.
I think it was 10.
It's not true.
Yeah.
10, I think it was 10.
And whether or not there would be a significant decline in enrollment should you go past that, area. But anyway, that's, we don't need, again, this is going into the weeds, but I'm just not sure I'm comfortable, or we've had enough discussion at this stage that we would consider marrying those two things. Are they that directly related? It's just so dramatically different.
They don't have to.
Okay.
Okay, so a charter petition does not have to get filed on the basis of our ability, our wherewithal to raise a private facility.
Okay.
I think they become, if you go down that decision tree, they then become parallel
issues that at 50 cents a square foot, it would behoove you to try to do everything you can to get to get a Prop 39 for that middle school program, and if you're not, and that's the conversation we're with Agus here, we must negotiate in good faith and tell them that our intention would be to either move our middle school to the private facility that they find, or that we would move our K through 5 school to that facility. So, or whomever the organization, it doesn't, I mean, I have no working relationship with any school entity, including Turner Agassiz, so I just found them to be the most neutral of the people that we have met so far.
I mean, I think honestly, Prop 39 is the best deal we're ever gonna get on the west side, so I think we need to seriously think about Prop 39 before we really consider a private facility, especially learning lessons from what happened with McConnell. I personally would be really interested in hearing from other developers of charter schools and how they've done it and how they've approached it. So, you know, we have heard from some of the other groups that you've brought in, but I think that would be really interesting to hear just kind of their thought process and how they've gone about and been successful. But I do think we need to realize that Prop 39 is something that we really need to consider and focus on, at least for the beginning until our enrollment's up to capacity.
So thank you for your comment. I would like to, ask the board whether we should give Javier the opportunity to bring in an additional expertise, to get an additional opinion.
I don't have a problem with that. My question in the survey, the last question was, who is willing to commit to a proper 1 or 2 days of strategic, of sitting, not strategic planning, of sitting down and actually mapping out what needs to happen. Without it, I think we just will go through the summer and we'll come back and we won't have really, because this decision of building an Uber board that has been discussed that will concentrate on scaling the school, or sorry, creating educational continuum. Requires a faster effort to move it forward.
Is it a possibility if we were to put the two of you together and just to come up with a basic decision tree, you would just chime in 2 different perspectives? Is that too much to ask?
At the risk of seeming disagreeable, I don't have the time for these triangulations. I'd rather get everybody in a room where they are willing to, because some of us are going to have to, because if you're going to go down the path of the second option, the people who want to work on that option need to make some serious commitments vis-a-vis, they're effectively doing another startup within the belly of a.
Would it be proper if maybe I will spend an afternoon with the 2 of us and we'll develop a very basic decision tree?
No, I'm more than happy to sit down and develop a decision tree for a couple of hours with someone, but I don't want to go through another 5 or 6 months. So personally, I don't have the time.
I got you.
We're bringing in more experts.
I think what I could get somebody to do is provide for us a wider perspective of the options that are out there. Just kind of, look, this is what you could do with private facility, this is how you could do it, this is a timeline that's got to go parallel with the petition. Are you going to do you're going to add grades? Is Prop 39 the only option out here? all those things, right? And so this is what it looks like, the whole picture.
Yeah.
And so I can get somebody to do that.
Under that scenario, are you suggesting that it would be this organization scaling to a?
I'm talking about this organization. I'm not.
Okay. So what if we had, at the risk of sounding very business school-like, why don't we have 2 teams present? We have one team that presents that scenario, and we have one team present the option that I'm putting on the table.
Well, what I'm saying is,
They're not
have
exclusive.
somebody, yeah,
They're not exclusive.
yeah, it's not exclusive, there's only a certain amount of roads you could take, you know? And so, I mean, you could have somebody do that, and I could have somebody do it as well, they're gonna come up with the same thing, you know? But,
On the building side, I can see, but on the strategy of creating an organization which is decoupled from the day-to-day operations of this school, they're two very different.
oh, I'm talking about the whole thing, I'm talking about, you know, organizational chart, organizational structure. I'm talking
Yeah, but
about-
what I'm saying is, the approach that I'm advocating for is leave the school alone. Below the executive director level, leave the school alone. Let it, because I completely agree that trying to take the school to both achieve its strategic objectives and achieve that, I think is a very tall order, and we've been through it once already.
Yeah,
The findings
financially,
were that
you won't be
we
able to
put
leave
place-
the school alone. It has to be part of the package.
No, Goethe Charter Schools, right, Goethe International Charter Schools would be the entity.
Of course.
And then, but the team that is then scaling, sorry, the team under that organization that is building the middle school would be a different team than, below the executive. You know, the executive director must be involved because she's the executive director of the organization.
Oh, yeah, but I think we're getting a couple of steps ahead of ourselves. I'm just bringing in some design, some grand kind of, look, these are the ideas, this is the roads that you could take. And then, you know, have somebody kind of, have the person present to us here, and then we choose which way to go. And
Sounds
then,
like something we should have done maybe like half a year ago.
We
or
did,
something.
high-level comments, just very soon this we did this. So this high-level comment is, we've got a lot of things in flux right now. We've got a budget, preliminary budget that's Glennis and Diggy and Stephanie and I spent a lot of time with Ryan. We have a reserve policy that we're about to implement that's going to basically allow us to invest in the school towards strategic priority number one, and also give us flexibility because we're so fortunate to have the reserves to allow us to plan for the future for a middle school, to have a policy in place to allow us to fund that. I'm just very sensitive in terms of Gwennis's and the administration's time and resources in terms of these things are happening in June. So, and Gwennis has developed this wonderful relationship with Chris Humphrey. She's presented us with a plan of, and it includes, again, we haven't had a formal discussion on material revision versus new charter petition, but we're throwing a lot of things in here right now that require a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of consideration, new petition, material revision, and we're making decisions, which, again, we have to make, and we have to make them quickly because they've been tabled since the school was started around budgeting, reserves, all these things that are, so I would just, you know, I think that's a good idea. We can bring in, you know, have a discussion around that. We've had a series of informational meetings around this very topic that's spent a few board meetings. I'm just very, very sensitive to the time and effort and resources that we would be unduly potentially be putting on Gwennis and the executive team here, given everything we have going on.
Yes, Stephanie?
May I speak for a second?
Absolutely.
I'd like to offer, if it's helpful, to meet with Javier and the person you're thinking of. If we don't want to do it as a whole board, I would be willing to be part of a small team. Maybe we could do it sort of under the guise of the finance committee, because we are trying to make some recommendations concerning the reserve policy, and whatever those recommendations are, they're going to be tied to what the options are moving forward, whether that is a holding company as a structure, or what kind of property decisions we're going to make. So I'd like to suggest, Duran, I don't know what you think, but I can't see you, but perhaps the finance committee could take on that task of having at least an initial conversation with Javier and your colleague, because I think that would be extremely helpful to have someone articulate bringing the contents of that conversation to the board in an effective way.
That sounds like a reasonable approach. I don't think it does need board approval at this stage. I think if Stephanie is willing to entertain that thought, at least to do initial conversation, my opinion would be to entertain it. I know.
Duran, what does Duran say?
Can you entertain the thought?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
I'm open to anything.
Alex is a,
Javier?
Yes.
Javier, would that be okay with you?
Oh, absolutely.
good.
My only concern is your time. The conversation with this guy is going to be about, what are our options? This is who we are, what are our options? You guys could provide that context, a deeper context than I can. So that's the question for this person is, what is the school's options, given who we are and what we have?
Are you referring to the same individual that already presented?
No. And there's plenty of these guys out there. It just doesn't have to be one guy, it could be several people that do this for a living.
And then can you take me through what you were, I just want to understand what do you see as the cost issue with Turner Agassi?
So,
How does Turner Agassi increase the price of the property? I don't understand.
because they have operational, we'll need to sign an operational agreement with them, which, they'll go out and buy properties, they'll operate the properties, and then they sell it back to you. That's their model. Right. And so when they sell it back to you, that's when they make their money above market rates. So, for
That's all
us,
pre-negotiated from beforehand. We don't get into an agreement that we then find that there is a surprise down the line. At the time that they're doing that work, that's all predetermined. It's not,
Right, well,
it's not
it's-
negotiated down the line.
it's predetermined by them. Before you get into the contract, everything's laid out, whatever your buyback is gonna be, what the add-on's gonna be on top of the buyback, market rate, et cetera. That's their model, and you can't, but I don't know if you remember, she said it's non-negotiable. That's just the way it is, that's how they make their
But
money.
we can choose not to get into that agreement. Once
No, of course.
we hear the details,
Of course.
we can choose not to get into it.
There's private companies, yeah.
So my only thing is that, again, this commitment to excellence, that personally, if the finance committee wants to go down the path of meeting a variety of people, I've already gone that path before. With this board, we spent $400,000 plus, and we didn't get where we want to be, and I'd much rather work with people that are bankable, because everything, you pay what you get what you pay for.
Of course.
And I don't think that we are not in a, I think we're in a position to control our destiny with organizations that have a track record of a documented process, and that the fail-safety mechanism is built in, whereby you don't proceed to the next stage, to the next phase, as opposed to going down the path of that. But by all means, if the finance organization wants to,
I'm not talking about second-rate folks. I'm talking about this is how I know Music Peeler, because we've worked with these guys before. Would I ever work with them again? No, for the same reason. We want first-rate guys, right? So that's what I'm talking about, bringing the best so this could get done. Like I said before, I've done this several times. It's not the first time for me. And I work with, major folks, bond holders, bond investors that have done this many, many times. This is part of the industry. The group is very small. Charter school developers know each other. They all know each other.
Good question.
Good question.
Personally, I'm very curious.
I'd
Yeah.
like to, close it out, and would like to take, my recommendation would be to get these two sides together and let the finance committee listen to that, come up with a consolidated report, probably with next board meeting. That would like to hear your opinion first.
The question, again, in
It's hard
general,
for me
I
to
mean,
move the agenda along when it's too different. for
no,
us.
again, I'm not adding to the debate, or any of the particular sides, but really trying to understand, do we have a sense for, timeline? Like when would actually be opportune to have a full perspective? Is it dependent on the two scenarios that we're talking about, or is it a parallel process? Do we need to get over the hump first off, like getting the budget done and all that kind of good stuff, because there's, a whole boatload of work ahead of us, and then have the presentation happen, or, personally, I don't have a good sense for when it would be the best time to attack the topic. Not the presentation. The presentation is part of the whole topic, the whole decision-making process. When does it
So
do?
the time is now, because what you want to do is you have to work in tandem with with whatever the organization wants in terms of submitting a petition.
Mhm.
If you're going to add grades, there's a certain timeline. If you're submitting a standalone petition, that has a certain timeline. But the time is now. This is where from May till about August is your window. If you want to open at a certain, 2 years from now.
We haven't got anything done between
But
June, July, and August.
I think, just to close out, I would like to encourage the finance team to listen out to this without, I'm not sure, I think it's a good process if there's a different perspective. I think it doesn't behoove us from where we met on the subject. There's no decision to be made. If Javier volunteers and provide a different perspective, I think we should listen to it, my personal opinion. And 30 days from now, when we meet again, we probably have another report from Stephanie, which we may integrate with Alex's report, and then we move from there. I don't think we can conclude that discussion at this stage. And I think I hear very valid opinions from both sides, and there's often different ways of doing it, and I don't want to alienate anybody, but my suggestion is that Stephanie is listening to what there's been said, and I hope that is going. I hope I have not offended you.
No, not at all. The only aspect for me is the fact that we're rewinding to where we were. So it becomes a
little bit of a circular reference.
It's like a movie I've seen before, and hopefully this time.
Hopefully it's not like that. So I think Stephanie is going to step in.
Is it a rerun you'll
I know. So
A rerun?
second, just stay with me for a moment. Stay with me for a second. I encourage Stephanie and Duran to just listen to what Javier has to say, provide a different perspective. Maybe we can share this with one. We can hopefully integrate these documents if there is anything to integrate, and let's look at this stuff. That would be my recommendation. If we're all okay with that, that would be fine. Yes. Yes. So yes.
Right, please, very briefly.
Sure.
Thank you.
State your name.
Dominique Sosa, I am the father of 2 second graders. I was a member of the planning task force, and in that context I would sort of like to make the statement that I'm under the impression the board is on a strategic tangent here. The strategic priorities that have been set forth in the planning document were about academic excellence, operational excellence, stabilization of the TK5 that exists, and then, forgive me, but rather low on the priority list is the expansion to the middle school and the expansion potentially to high school. Facility is a potential item on that list, but it seems to me that like the 3 or 4 past board meetings, we've spent entirely just talking about facilities, private facilities. I would appreciate, but I'm the devil out here, so I would appreciate if you could focus on the first 3 priorities, and of course setting up the stage for the middle school, but maybe go with the middle school petition and the Prop 39 course. First of all, we have an empirical evidence showing that there is a lack of capacity to get too many things done at the same time, and we're not even halfway through with the strategic plan right now with the recommendations. Yet we're putting on another layer and about to overload the boat again by adding the private facility discussions and the finance discussions that go along with that. So again, from the PTF point of view, I would strongly urge you not to go too far and stretch the boat too quick or too.
Duly noted. Thank you for your comment. So with that comment, I'd like to conclude that point. I'd like, for the next one, I don't need a lot, I need only 2 minutes, but I need to kind of, somebody needs to take over the leadership of the meeting. Could you do me a favor? You can do this for a second. We don't have an officer. Alex, can you take over the meeting for a second? For sure. As it says here under item C, I'd like to report formation of the LLC to hold Goethe International Charter School. I don't have actually a proposal for you. What I wanted to do is just reaffirm the authority to bring forward documents, because I thought I granted the authority, but it was a while ago, to bring forward these documents. So I wanted to just reaffirm my authority that was given to you, that I can actually bring forward documents for you to look at. That's all I have. I don't have anything specific, but I wanted to make sure that everybody's on the same boat, and I wanted to bring forward these documents, but before I go to there, just can I still bring that forward to you?
We've had a series of, so the question is, there's new members of the board, and I think authority or the board had voted previously had a different composition in terms of a lot of members that weren't there, so I'll tell you from my perspective of being a relatively new board member within just under a year, is that we've had a series of informational meetings from lawyers. I guess it was I'm not sure if it was music. I don't remember.
Both organizations presented them.
And they gave us options. Thanks, Alex. They gave us options around CMOs, SOs, pros and cons, this and that. I was under the impression that those were informational meetings, and and I have some view, but we haven't had any context of discussion around the feedback from those informational meetings. So I'll just leave it at that. The point being, we haven't had a discussion, follow-up discussion from those informational meetings to get to a point of engaging or forming or anything like that from the new board members, in terms of what the actual recommendation is that we're going to do, if that makes sense, because we weren't involved in the prior discussions. A lot of us weren't. I'm not speaking for everyone, obviously.
I'm not in charge.
Oh, I'm sorry. Man, yeah, it seems to me, it's putting the horse before the cart. We need to decide first, what type of, why do we need the LLC, to your point, right? We need further discussion of which way we're gonna go in terms of the CMO. If we're just gonna add grades, we don't need a CMO, it's just one school, right?
I think it was for the supporting organization. It wasn't
Supporting organization?
It was not for a CMO.
For what purpose? And that's to your point.
That's to the point.
Yeah.
We've had informational, we've had people present to us, but we haven't had a discussion around digesting that information and coming to a conclusion from that information. That's my point. For the again, not speaking to what happened in the past.
Yeah, and I got you.
We just have a number of new board members that weren't privy to those discussions.
I think it was, to how for the purpose, it was a supporting organization, the papers and the framework, which needs to be signed for 3 purposes: fundraising, summer school, and potentially hold a secondary school. But for the main purposes of having a fundraising organization, holding it and bifurcating it from the current organization, and then bringing practically the document forward. I'm not presenting it. I would probably present. It would be the law firm who would present it, and reiterating, circling back on the options presented, recommending these papers and bringing it to the next level. Basically having something to look at, which we then can decide upon. But doing the next step, because I concluded that from the overall scope of work, that the CMO is unlikely for us because of so it would be in regards to the supporting organization.
So this would be a foundation, basically.
And a foundation, yes.
501c3.
501c3, to do fundraising. And
Full title.
And all the stuff which is basically, which are not covered by the charter, and then giving us the opportunity to hold, if we want to hold, and go hold real estate. But that's basically the feasibility, because, but the main purpose would be the fundraising and do all the summer camps and all that kind of stuff. And I would like to, and that's the only reason I'd like to bring it forward, because either way we go, it covers it, but it kills basically the fundraising stone, it kills two birds with one stone. And that's just what I wanted to reiterate and bring that forward to the board, because it doesn't preclude us from.
Anybody else on the subject?
Can I say something?
Sure. Oh.
Stephanie, I would find it helpful to have a discussion on a concrete proposal for the forming the LLC. Because it's not clear to me the scope of the benefits of that organization. I mean, I sort of get it, but I agree that I need some documentation in order to really make an informed decision. And one way in which to bring that discussion forward would be with a proposal, with a motion, an action item to establish the LLC, bring the proposal, bring the documentation, and put it on the table. We can have a discussion. And then at that point, we could call for a vote, or we could simply table it. But bringing it as an action item would give us an opportunity to really wrestle with a very specific proposal that was focused on what Goethe's specific needs might be. So I, for one, would welcome that strategy, recognizing, though, that if after the motion is made and the discussion is held, we still would have the liberty to not vote on it if we could. And so we could table it. So anyway, that is one way that we could have the conversation around the LLC in a very specific manner. So I just throw that out there.
So before I ask, can we just also get, Gladys, do you have any opinions on the subject?
I don't at this time. Thank you.
Any other board members on the subject? No? So I'm being coached here into doing Frank's job.
She wants to make a motion.
Would you like to make a motion, Stephanie?
No, there's no motion to, there's no motion to be made. I just, it could be set as an agenda item in the future, for the next meeting, for this material to be brought forward. That setting it as an agenda item would be within the scope of the president and executive director, perhaps coached by Nestle Grigsby, about the most effective way to do that. I'm just listing it up as a potential strategy. I think I would find it helpful to have such a concrete proposal that I could vote on, accept, or reject. That's just, there you go. It's not a motion. It's just an
Stephanie, I
idea
think.
that the executive committee could implement if they thought it would work.
Yes, we can do it that way, Stephanie. The president and the cabinet is empowered to follow as you just prescribed.
Okay, thank you. You're gonna give it? You have to give it back, I assume, the leadership of the meeting again. And I'd like to move it on to item number 8, which is new business. Javier, that was a point from your perspective. You asked for that in the past. Is there anything you would like to?
Yeah, I'd like to, well, previously I wanted for us to discuss further the development of the middle school and to be put as part of but it's already there. Items for discussion, new business right now, I don't have any.
Okay, anybody else have any new business for discussion?
I have an item, please,
Okay.
and I have placed on your.
Madam Executive Director.
Thank you so much. I have placed with your agenda this evening a recently written policy on independent educational evaluations. that was vetted by our special education expert attorney. And this is a policy that is very crucial for us in terms of setting rules or putting rules in place that grant authority for an independent educational evaluation, that would grant parents the authority to have this in place for their student, along with obviously the evaluation that we give the students, or to reimburse parents who have already obtained an independent educational evaluation for their student. What we've been seeing recently here at Goethe, our parents are going out and getting their own independent evaluations. We do not have a policy in place to set standards or rules for obtaining them and for the reimbursement of these. And so this is really critical that we have this policy.
So,
So I recommend that we vote. It has been vetted by a special education attorney, and it's pretty typical language, very typical.
we have,
But we do not have a policy currently, so it's not protecting us not to have one, and it's really
Is
not
this-
protecting the
is
parent
this-
either,
is
so
this
it's
a-
both ways.
Is this a policy that the board needs to authorize, or that the policy that the
The
school
board
leadership
does.
can just adopt, because you're choosing a resource to do?
Our past practice has been the board does approve all policies, new policies.
Okay, so is there a motion?
Is there a
Can
motion?
you
So,
make the motion?
is
I
it-
motion to adopt this practice.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I will be calling the vote. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I ask for
Oh, wait,
the,
can you just note one abstention, because I don't have it on.
Okay.
in front of me.
yeah, and one abstention, of course. Before I ask for the motion to adjourn the meeting, I would like to thank everybody for their participation, their civility, the way we conducted this meeting. It was longer than expected, but I would like to thank everybody. I think it was a very productive meeting, very informative meeting. And with that, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make that motion.
A motion, do we have a second? Okay, motion, are we all in favor? Aye. Motion adjourned at 21:15 today. Thank you very much. Good night, Carol.
Thank you all, good night.
Thank you.